after I made these videos kind of sharing my story and how I recovered, the response was some confusion, because I'm one of those people that it's nicknamed having the book cure. And what that means is that after 2 years of trying all these standardized medicine options, alternative medicine options, nothing was helping, and in fact everything was making it worse. An acquaintance who at the time I barely knew, just off the cuff, said, "Hey, it looks like you're really struggling, and there's this book by a guy named Dr. John Sarno named Healing Back Pain. It helped me, it might help you, I don't know, just check it out." And I figured at the time, I have nothing to lose. So bought the book. While I'm reading the book, I got better very quickly. But that part is what I don't elaborate on enough, so I'm going to break it down a bit more. What's so important in order for other people to recover from stress-induced medical conditions, psychophysiologic disorder, tension myoneural syndrome, whatever you name it, is on the patient side, you need to have these aha moments for it to really click and register on a deeper level. Having come through this, I recognize that the conscious mind, what you're aware of, what you actively think and can control to an extent, it can accept new thoughts and ideas much faster than the unconscious mind. And so it can take a lot of time for that information to process, but for me it kind of clicked really quickly. So what happened was I was reading the book Healing Back Pain while laying in bed. And for that brief moment, my symptoms were as close to zero as possible, which may have been a 1 or a 2, depending on the symptom that I was experiencing during 2015 at this point. And while I'm reading the book and reading about how steroid epidural injections don't have good outcomes in reducing pain, and I'm thinking to myself, I've already had 2, and I'm reading about how low back surgery isn't effective for pain, and I'm thinking to myself, I almost just had a low back surgery, and then they pointed out about hip surgeries, I almost just had bilateral, and they're pointing out about all these treatments that I'd went through or almost went through that were also very scary to consider, and how not effective they are, and people can still end up having pain after it. And I felt this like, are you kidding me that I already went through this and I was about to go through that surgery, something so invasive and risky, and there's all this evidence that shows it's not effective? And I felt this emotion of anger and rage, and I suddenly started having pretty much all of my 20 or so symptoms at once laying in bed. And that's what really connected, was because had this confluence of events not happened, I would have otherwise assumed that if I felt my back spasm, I would have thought it's because I moved, I bent forward. Any kind of flexion forward bending action, it must be that. If I felt dizziness, I would have thought it's because of either movement or because of reaction to medication. But I didn't do anything different in that moment. So I quickly went down the list with all my symptoms and realized that the only change between 10 seconds ago and right now when all these symptoms flared up is an emotional change. And if an emotional change can cause all these symptoms to flare up without any physical or other cause like external medicine, anything else, then okay, if emotions can cause physical symptoms, real physical symptoms, then had they been causing that before for the last 2 years? And it was this interesting kind of like, oh, huh. And as soon as it all flared up, it began to dissipate and kind of fluctuate and kind of hover there, but the fear went away in that moment, thinking that the pain did not equal harm in this case. Hurt didn't equal harm, that it wasn't a direct correlation between this physical sensation that I definitely felt and tissue damage or anything that I should be concerned about as a dancer and a person not wanting to cause further harm. And that connection between the fact that pain is not equivalent to harm was one of the first and most important aha moments for me in my recovery. So what was interesting for me in that moment, making this aha connection, was that even high levels of pain, like level 10 pain, as well as other uncomfortable sensations like numbness, tingling, burning, spasms, all of that was making the connection with the fact that these sensations that were real and very felt and sometimes visible spasms did not directly correlate with structural damage, with a permanent injury, with me thinking that as a dancer that this feeling I'm feeling in my back means that I'm broken and that I will never recover, or that having herniated discs means that I'm forever broken, that herniated discs are some rarity, which why would a 20-something-year-old have them and that I would never recover? Instead, by learning about this mind-body connection and the science behind psychophysiologic disorders, hearing about the fact that herniated discs are linked to age, not pain, and that it is normal for even those who are 20 years old. 37% of them have disc degeneration who do not even experience low back pain. That was very helpful to know because that took away the fear. I mean, the way that these doctors were interacting with me and saying, oh, see, here it is. You have that herniated disc and you have 2 of them and you have 4 of them and torn cartilage and that's why you have pain. That's where your pain's coming from. I thought I was broken and I thought, oh no, like I'm a dancer. We only get one instrument. There's not much you can change with that. And when I first learned about having my herniated discs, I felt like this crushing feeling like, oh no, they looked so sad on the MRI of this deflated, darkened hole in my back. And I thought, I'm never gonna get that back. Does that mean that I'm never gonna be able to dance this way again? And then that plus multiple doctors and clinicians telling me, yeah, you'll never dance again. Of course you'll never dance again. That certainly added a whole other layer of grief. And then, gee, no wonder why my symptoms increased so much. Just that spiraling effect of it. People often ask me a lot, because now that I'm in this space and I'm a patient advocate to help others relieve their stress-induced medical conditions, they ask me, well, how did you recover so quickly? And why is it that I can't recover so quickly? And I've thought about this a lot, and there's a lot of different things that I can touch on. But just to start, I've thought about the fact that dancers and athletes, we're used to feeling pain. Usually it's acute and it goes away, but we're used to that. It's kind of like, it's no big deal, we push through it. The whole culture is like, suck it up, keep going, show must go on. Certain things are just gonna be uncomfortable. I mean, it certainly doesn't feel like everything you do is licked on by kittens. So pain is normal, but what we fear is having structural damage and injury that could deter us from doing what we need to do for either a period of time, God forbid we miss a show for one show, or have to rest for 2 months or a year. I once had a dance teacher my freshman year of college, when I was struggling with knee issues, say, you know, Jessica, taking a year off from dance, it's not that big of a deal. It happens to a lot of us. And I thought, are you kidding me? A year off from dance. It's my whole career gone. And they're like, no, it happens a lot. That's what we fear. We fear the injury that takes you out for a while, or worse, the injury that ends you. And as a dancer, you're always expecting that. Unfortunately, towards the end of my medical crisis, I was trying to keep my workers' comp insurance to keep covering my medical expenses, which they stopped doing, and they technically, legally shouldn't have stopped doing that. And so the lawyer that I was consulting with spoke to a specialist who understands dancers. And this woman that he spoke to, the specialist, said that all dancers eventually get injured. That's what dancers do. And based on that assumption, he felt like, well, there you go, you're injured. And that's normal, so there's nothing we can do, and it's nobody's fault, and it's just that you guys just dance until you become broken. So That's a terrible way of looking at it. It certainly doesn't have to be that way. But yeah, we all fear that career-ending injury. So when I was having all these symptoms keeping me from even bending forward to put on a shoe, let alone tie a shoe, or even handle sitting in a chair, standing up, taking care of myself, self-care, even the bare minimum, yeah, that brings up a lot of fear. But the point I want to make is that because dancers and athletes are so used to pain and uncomfortable sensations and more worry about physical damage, once I realized that the pain and sensations I had didn't correlate with physical damage, that I could move and despite having this flare-up of pain or a symptom, I knew, because I had already ruled out, that I wasn't going to cause myself further harm. Well, then it's like, okay, fine. That is something that I was more familiar with. Like, okay, I bend forward and it's like this shooting, stabbing pain. Fine, I know now that I'm not damaging my back. Or okay, I'm sitting and my legs start to go numb. Okay, fine. I know that there's nothing that by sitting should be causing that. It's a sensation generated in my brain as a danger signal. And I kind of would interpret it and think, I had this way of looking at my symptoms as if it is a friend or someone in your life that gives you terrible advice for how to handle a situation. And I would think, when that would come up, I would think, thanks, but no thanks. Thanks for warning me, got the memo, but no thank you, I do not need my legs to collapse while I'm trying to cross a New York City street. We're good. I will take the note of this danger signal, and that's all I need. And kind of going through this again and again is how I unlearned these neural pathways that were causing my symptoms. And I have so much empathy for people who are experiencing these symptoms and have health professionals, their family, or their friends saying, maybe it's all in your head. And because I'm well aware that that's a terrible thing to say. That implies a lot of ignorance and just apathy. And ultimately, I think to myself, guess what's in your head? Your brain. And what's the most vital organ in our body? Your brain. The more I learned about pain science, the fact that amputees can feel real pain in a phantom limb that's no longer there. You can feel pain in your leg without your leg, but you can't feel pain in any part without a brain. It's controlling all your body systems. Of course, it can affect any neural pathway to your breathing rate, your blood flow, your physical tension. These are all not just symptoms. These are physiological changes that are meant to happen in the fight or flight stage, responding to fear and danger signals. If you didn't have that increased blood flow and that tense, body ready to, flee or fight, then you wouldn't live to pass on your genes. I mean, these things are here to protect us. Recognizing that pain is a danger signal is huge, because now I like to view it as, I try to take away the stigma from the pain. It's a sensation, and sensations can be interpreted anyway.